Britain's political landscape is shifting, and at the heart of the turmoil stands Labour leader Keir Starmer. Once viewed as the calm, rational alternative to the chaos of previous leadership, Starmer now finds himself facing a moment that could redefine not only his own political legacy, but the future of the Labour Party. For years, Starmer has cultivated an image of control, professionalism, and steadiness, a stark contrast to the bluster of populists or the fervor of ideological firebrands. But recent events have exposed deep cracks in that carefully managed persona. It all began at 7:36 a.m. with a phone call that, according to insiders, left Starmer visibly shaken. The timing couldn't have been worse. He was preparing for Prime Minister's questions, one of the most high-stakes events in British politics. But this wasn't a case of a difficult policy brief or a surprise media ambush. It was a poll. A new survey revealed that Labour's once dominant lead over the Conservatives had collapsed to just 3 points. The party's commanding position had evaporated, triggering panic at the top. The narrative of an inevitable Labour victory was beginning to fall apart. Sources inside the room described a dramatic shift in atmosphere. Starmer tried to compose himself but quickly cleared the room, leaving only his chief of staff behind. What followed was unprecedented. The typically composed leader reportedly slammed his fist on the table and exclaimed, "This can't be happening now." This was no stage display. It was raw frustration, the kind that exposes deep personal and political turmoil. He then spent nearly 15 minutes pacing, oscillating between anger and eerie silence. Those present said it was like watching someone struggle to process a reality they couldn't yet accept. For a man who had built his reputation on emotional restraint and logic, it was a startling break in character. As if the poll wasn't enough, leaked internal documents began to circulate, records suggesting Starmer had privately backed policy positions that conflicted with his public statements. For a leader who has sold himself on integrity and consistency, the revelations were explosive. Then came the footage. A leaked video showed Starmer lashing out at his communications team, reportedly questioning their competence and even their loyalty. For staff who had stood by him since the beginning, the accusations were deeply wounding. "We've worked too hard to let this slip away," he reportedly said, his voice cracking. What should have been a rallying cry came off instead as a sign of a man losing his grip. Political psychologist Dr. Helena Wright described the episode as a textbook case of political panic syndrome, where a leader's internal certainty of victory crashes into the hard wall of public doubt. The result? Emotional breakdown, defensive posturing, and blame shifting, all of which were on display. Starmer canceled 3 scheduled appearances that morning, including a key interview on Labour's economic policy, a missed opportunity to show resilience. Instead, he retreated into his office for over 2 hours. For a leader on the brink of a confidence crisis, such a disappearance only intensified the perception of instability. In the days that followed, the leaks continued. Anonymous insiders described a campaign operation riddled with fear and indecision. "We've gone from looking like a government in waiting to a team in meltdown," said one senior Labour figure. What's become clear is this: the calm, competent leader the public thought they knew is now being viewed in a new light. Caroline Stevens, a veteran political analyst, notes that these kinds of moments don't necessarily decide elections, but they can permanently reshape public perception. "It's not the outburst that damages a leader most," she says, "it's what it reveals." Voters are perceptive. They notice when the mask slips, when the image of stability gives way to signs of strain. And they are not easily forgiving when trust is broken. What happens next is critical. Starmer's team will work to reframe this crisis as evidence of deep passion and commitment. But with the footage, the documents, and the polling all pointing in a worrying direction, it will take more than damage control to rebuild his position. It will require confronting not just public doubts, but his own internal reckoning. The coming weeks may determine whether Keir Starmer can recover and lead Labour into the next general election, or whether this was the moment the facade cracked and the slow unraveling began.